Hey everybody, welcome to our podcast. We're the Bunny Hug Farmers. My name's Tyler Janin. I'm here with my co-host Dallas Leduc, and we have our very first guest on the show, Travis Hildabrandt. How you doing today, Travis?
Oh, not so bad, guys. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Also doing great. And I'd like to thank Travis for coming on and being our first guest. Travis is also a TikToker like myself and also Tyler. Travis has been really instrumental in helping us promote our very first episode. So it's the one and the only. We have to have Travis come on to be our first guest.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like with Dallas, when you texted me yesterday, is like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? You're going to be our first guest." I'm kind of looking at my phone, like, say what? I wasn't even expecting to be the 10th person, but this was very unexpected. But I'm honored for you guys to have me as your first guest.
Yeah.
So one thing I recently learned about you, Travis, is you swath a lot of your acres on your farm. On my
Yes.
farm, we swath every acre, and we're on opposite sides of the province.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm a
No.
straight cut guy.
Yeah. I kind of fall right between you guys there. The only thing we swath on our farm is our green lentils. We don't desiccate them. We do, your typical, pre-seed burn on it, and then, your in-crop spraying. Like, but Dallas knows as well as I do, you're pretty limited to what kind of weeds you can kill with your green lentils or any kind of pulses for that matter. You're limited to grass weeds like millet, wild oats, volunteer wheat, that kind of stuff. As far as like buckwheat, any other broadleaf weed, you can't spray it out because you'll just kill your crop when you do that. So, and we don't like desiccating. And the other thing is too, it kind of makes the hair on the back of our heads kind of stand up. Having the thought of having our expensive, well, I guess the header I run isn't that expensive, but on our combines, having that run on the ground. And yes, you do roll this. You roll your land after you're done planting lentils. But we have seen and heard so many guys, they'll pick up this odd rock that didn't get pushed in quite enough in the ground, and you're sending that through your combine, and you're causing a lot of damage. So we're like, you know what? For the amount of money that's going to take to repair what damage you do to your combine with a stone, it's just worth it. It's worth it to us to just swath it down. That way, like I said, we don't desiccate. The weeds dry down relatively quick, especially in the last few years. We've had tremendous heat here in the summer, and harvest has been creeping up on us like 2.5 weeks in advance. So we're kind of up against it. We like to swath our lentils, right after they get out of that green stage, but they're still kind of yellow, and everything, the pods are still soft, and you don't get as much header loss out of that. But the last couple of years, it's snuck up on us. We're swathing the lentils when they're bone dry and they're shattering at the head. Yes, you get a lot of loss, but it's the whole rock thing that kind of makes it an easy decision for us.
Right.
And
And the
I
one thing that's getting me back to there when you say it makes the weeds dry down really well. Well,
Yeah.
on our farm, yes, that's the same thing. We don't desiccate anything on our farm because we swath, but even the weeds dry down, and we believe that we're probably getting a little bit less chemical resistance on our farm just because we're not using as much desiccant or glyphosate.
Yeah,
And when
that's
you
right.
cut that plant off, it's not coming back. You've essentially killed that plant once it's been cut off. You've cut off the lifeline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we this year we actually we never used to do a bunch of like any kind of fall weed control, but this year we decided, we're going to split our lentil acres for next year half and half. We spread edge and harrowed edge on half of our lentil field for next year, and then the other half we sprayed Fierce on it. So we're going to kind of see, what benefits us more, like what gets us a better kill. Because I mean, this year we had dirty lentil crops. There was actually about 800 acres of lentils that we couldn't get because of kochia, buckwheat, you name it. It just took it over. There wasn't even worth swathing it. There was nothing there. So, but I think I made a video there a little while. Actually, it was during harvest, and you could just see in between all the rows of lentils, there was just ragweed like nuts. But it dried down. But the buckwheat would just wrap around the reel. It was that bad.
Yeah, and even coming to trying to like desiccate kochia, which I've had to do, it is very hard to kill a kochia plant with a chemical. That's probably our number one weed for being chemical resistant. And so, like you said, you cut that off with a swather, you layer in the row, it's dead. But I tried to kill that with chemical. I got
It's
to
dead.
drown
Yep.
it. Yeah, I got to drown it. And then what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm making sure them seeds that are not quite dead but sort of dead. Maybe next time when they grow that seed will grow a plant, it'll be completely, unkillable by chemical. It'll be so chemical resistant it'll be off the charts. That's actually half the reason
Yeah.
I own a swather. And in the last 6 years, 5 years since we've owned that thing, I think we have 40 hours on it total. But if we ever get into a wreck some year where we're going to get a bunch of chemical resistant kochia, we keep the swather tucked in the back quarter of the Quonset just in case there's going to be that year, and then we're going to be scrambling.
Yeah. That's right. That's the same thing for us down here.
Yep. And it's paid for, and I'm not making a big payment on it, so sometimes it's nice to have something sitting there paid for.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's for sure. Like, and you say like your issue with kochia, we've had that here for oh, probably just over 2 years now, because we had horrible. We didn't actually spray anything the year before because it was so dry. The weeds weren't even growing.
Yeah.
Like, we were desert dry here. It was nuts. And we like, you know what? Our agronomist even said you could spray this, but you know what? These weeds aren't going to really hinder you much come harvest. You know, why not save like a couple $100,000 for next year? And that's what we did. But you know, the kochia thing, I guess we couldn't have got away from that anyway. But our wheat had a lot of kochia in it, especially like our latest planted wheat, the last 600 acres. Like, we were going around with the combine, cutting out areas. Like, it was like making a corn maze, because there were spots where there were no weeds, and then most of it was just like waist high, bushy kochia that I have never seen before in my life.
And that's the joy of farming, maybe where we probably shouldn't be farming. Some of this area is almost borderline too dry to farm. During the wet years, we had no problem growing a crop. And we get these dry years, it's like, uh-oh, now we're in trouble.
Yeah, so one thing we do back to the swathing and kochia, with the swathing, we have the option of we just swath right through it, and then when the combine gets to it, they just pick up, they go over it. And being that we have cattle and round balers, we leave that stuff out there, and a week or two after we've passed with the combines, it's dried down enough that it's relatively safe to put in a bale. Just when you send somebody out picking bales, you got to be careful how you pick it up because it's bloody heavy. Like, it's probably double the weight of an ordinary hay bale.
Oh yeah, they're probably 120, 130 pounds easy.
Or your round bales, or you're probably looking at 2,000 pounds for a grain round bale with kochia and stuff in it. So you can really get a heavy
Yeah, I
bale.
think I've had it where the front wheel assist tractor can barely pick one up.
Oh,
That
yeah. Like, we've never really baled any weeds as far as we go. Like, we never really seen a benefit. Like, well, we this summer actually we bought a tandem sunflower disc, or what is it, a 1436 series sunflower tandem disc, and we did that because we had, like I said, weed problems from the year prior, and we wanted to chop that up and bury it, which that machine did an awesome job. But we had a smaller. You guys heard of the brand name Easy On, eh?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Same,
Well,
same as what I have on my
yeah,
front end loader on my Massey.
yeah. I think that's the same one. It's about a 16-foot disc, and we use that. But I mean, like, 16 feet on the, you know, half a section of weeds. You're spending a lot of time there. So we like, you know what? We need something different. And plus, that disc had the notch discs, and it didn't really chop it up like a smooth disc would. And this thing was just eating through it. It was crazy. Like, it'd be bushy, dragging on the bottom of the tractor. You go over it, you look behind the disc, it's like it's fresh summer fall that there was no weed. It looked like there was no weeds there to begin with.
So would that be much I don't think I've ever seen one in person. Would that be much the same as a Degelman Pro Tail?
No, no, it has nothing to do with the Pro Till.
No, but
It's
like
not a high.
it's built similar is what I was getting at.
Well, it's got
Um,
they have two rows of
no,
discs, but it's more of a just a straight double disc. Where
you
the Pro
do.
Tail is also two rows of discs, but it's made with high speed and a rolling basket. Where you don't got a rolling basket on yours, do you, Travis?
No, we don't. But you can actually buy that as an option. You can get a drag harrow behind it, or you can get the rolling baskets behind it. But guys never. We've heard that they're not even worth getting because this thing leaves such a nice finish already. It doesn't pay to get the add-ons.
Every add-on like that on a $50,000 disc or whatever that disc was, Travis, is probably going to be another 10, 12,000 just for a rolling basket, and money doesn't grow on trees.
No, no, yeah, you're right. That disc it wasn't cheap, but I mean, as far as workmanship and quality of the machine, it's great. We just had that one problem. I don't know. You guys might have seen that too this summer. I kind of touched on this. Um, our dealership actually put the like it has four rams for the four sets of wheels, the two main frames and the two wing wheels. Well, they didn't put the right rams in the right spot. They put the rams that were supposed to be on the inside on the outside because we couldn't get that thing level for the life of us. The center was always going deeper. We had like the ready rod on the adjustment on the wings to level it. We had that set as deep as that thing would go, but the rams would not suck in that last 2 inches. And we figured out the bores to the outside rams from the inside ones were different. It was the bigger rams were at the outside where the smaller ones were on the inside. So anybody that knows hydraulics, that's an issue. You always want your bigger rams closest to your power source.
So that would have been some fun trying to diagnose that. And then if the dealer, made an oops on it, then they're trying to figure out what they did too, and you had to screw with that. I remember watching a couple of your videos debating on that thing that it wasn't working right. Oh yeah, that's tough when somebody
Yeah,
comes to the farm brand new and it doesn't work, and then you're like, ugh, now just what this piece of junk.
yeah. Well, no, credit to our dealership that we bought it from. We told them our issue, and they were on the phone with the factory down in Sunflower in I think they were made in Kansas, and they were back and forth, couldn't figure this out. Then just the one day, I was jumping in the tractor, and I was like this is driving me nuts. Like it drives me nuts. If I got a problem, it'll drive me bonkers until I figure it out. So I just kind of looked, seen the stickers on the Rams, like for telling the size of them, and I'm like, okay, this one's this size. Okay, what are the centers? Well, the centers were smaller. I was like, that that should have been the first thing we should have checked. But they assembled it right here in Swift Current, but they did it wrong. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I wasn't gonna, come down on them. They were good. The service tech, who is a buddy of mine, he came out. They switched them out free of charge. Everything was all tickety boo after that.
Well, I guarantee the next one they ship out is going to be sent out right.
Yeah, well, for the assembly with the assembly instructions, it doesn't even say on the assembly instructions that these rams go here and those rams go there.
So it just
I
sounds like
guess.
IKEA produced this for them or wrote the
Well,
instructions
yeah.
or
Yeah, I mean, you could probably chalk it up to that, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty close. But I mean, like the disc itself, like I said, it's an awesome machine. If anybody ever has a chance to run one, we've never used it in breaking up any kind of hayland or nothing. But I've heard from multiple people online that you know what you would do with any other normal disc, like four passes to break it up to a nice smooth finish, you'll do that like half the time, half the passes with the sunflower.
Oh, because I got in my Limerick land there. That area doesn't drain; it just makes lots of sloughs. And so in the wet years, I lost a lot of ground due to sloughs. So something like that might be something I have to look into maybe trying to rent and come down there and or rent one or buy one and see what it can do. Because that's the problem is all my good dirt was underwater for years. Well, now it's accessible, so that's something to check into. Enough about that. Anybody been outside today? How freaking cold is it out there? It's 30 below, and I'm not calving yet. Yeah, I'm not calving yet. We only got 11 cows, but we're not calving for another couple months. But I watched your video earlier today, Tyler, and I see you're calving. How is that going?
well, right now we're right in the heart of it, and So far, it's going well considering we've already got 5 sets of twins. That's a lot of twins for us. Normally, we'll get 2 or 3 sets a year, and I'm only in the first quarter of calving. We start generally around the 9th of January, and a lot of people ask us, why are you calving when it's this cold? Well, we're calving out over 300 head. We don't AI. It's done naturally. We turn the bulls out around the beginning of April. But the reason why we calve so early in the year and in all this cold is because we don't have time to be messing around with cattle when we're seeding. Seeding starts for us at the end of April. That's when a lot of guys start calving. Well, we've got a lot of acres to put in, and we don't have the manpower to look after it. So when people ask, why are you calving? I don't got time for it when it's nice out.
Yeah, because that's when we like our high numbers when we had cattle was 160 head. But maybe we calved a little too late, but we don't have your nice facilities there or good facilities. And that's what I found. We were so short of manpower come spring that Dad was at the barn and I was at the shop, and we weren't getting it done what we needed to get done. Well, that's why you guys are so early, because in order to get your workload spread out correctly, you got to start early. But now you're babysitting at 30 below, but you got to have the barns, you got to have the bedding, and you got to have the smarts to know how to do it. And I don't know if you run any cabin cameras, but those are pretty huge, the guys that have those.
Yeah, we currently don't have any calving cameras. We're kind of working in our transition stage. Myself, my brother, and my cousin, we're kind of taking over. So we're the younger generation. We understand all that technology. My uncle and my dad, they tried calving cameras in the late 90s and they just didn't work. So they stayed stuck in that. Oh, they're no good. They don't work. So maybe in the future when we get a little more financially stable ourselves in this, we'll put some calving cameras in and whatnot. But calving this time of year isn't for the faint of heart. At 7:30 this morning in the pitch black, I had a water bowl that I suspected I had issues with, and when I went and checked it at 7:30, I had issues with it. So I was back to the shop, get an axe, chisel it out, get a half-inch wrench, open up the little door, get a flashlight in there, and there was my problem. A heating element had fallen out of its cradle, and one half of the water bowl was froze up. So it's not for the faint of heart. And whether you like the cold or not, you kind of just got to put up with it.
And that's, experience talking there too, because a lot of the times you don't know what you're going to do unless you have that experience of already tackling into them problems in the past. Because without, relying on your experience, if you didn't have any idea of how that worked, then you're really going to have troubles. Then you got to get your axe. Like you said, your axe and your wrench and your heating element, and all that takes time and experience. And without falling on the knowledge passed down from our fathers, it's a lot to learn. I mean, to become basically a journeyman farmer is a whack ton of experience.
I think that's what I'm going to start calling myself now, a journeyman farmer. Kind of know how to do everything, but not necessarily good at all of it.
Yeah. And another thing I'm jealous right now is your dad is on holidays in the hot country.
Yeah, he flew out. So we live in Mooseman, and he wanted to fly direct. Well, the closest airport that he could fly direct out of was Winnipeg. Well, he left on Friday, so he got to about Brandon, and the highway was closed. So he sat at the gates for 5 hours waiting for them to open the highways. Then he got into Winnipeg, and the routes he had to take to get to his hotel, because his flight was the next morning, were so snow-covered that he had to basically plow his vehicle through it. Well, all this electronic stuff on board, he went to go move his car the next day, and the park brake was froze on. So he managed to get it off. He's going along, had to make a few stops in the city before the airport. It was so cold out in Winnipeg, and the vehicle was froze up so bad that his park brake wouldn't engage on his car. Thankfully, he was smart, and he paid for the heated parking at the airport. So his vehicle will be nice and toasty for him when he comes back.
Oh, that's money well spent. And thinking about that, and I got some buddies that run them cabin cameras, and they have them on their phone. You know what's going to happen? If you get cabin cameras and your dad's in holidays, you're going to be doing your calving. Your dad's going to be sitting on some beach, and he'll be running the cameras back and forth and telling you that 34B looks like she's going into labor. And you're like, you're on holidays. quit playing on the cameras.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, my buddy, the camera would go left, he'd move it back to the right. The camera would go left, he'd move it back. It was just him and his dad were just fighting over where the cameras were going to be aimed. But, you know, that technology is an amazing thing. And I think once a guy gets to it, you won't want to be without it. But, you know, also there's something to be said about eyes on the ground. You got to get your butt out of bed like you were at 7:30 this morning and get out there and take a look at, you know, them animals, walk through them, and especially, you know, in your video there, you were trying to move them cows out of the shed so you can bet them. Well, they weren't. Obviously, you don't get any wild cows because they weren't even moving. Like they were just locked in there solid.
No, they didn't want to move out. Normally they would move out easier than that. Just it's the cold. It's warm in that shed. Like when we go down and do our first walk through the pens in the morning, and you get right to the back of the shed, it's warm in there. Like it's still below 0 Celsius, but it's warm in there. Like with all your snow clothes on and everything, you're comfortable.
Oh yeah, yeah. Out of the wind is huge. Like this morning, I was outside at 30 below. I shot a little video out there playing around, and it was
MySpace.
good. Yeah, MySpace. Everybody's gonna go to MySpace, and you know it was good. But yesterday was actually a little bit warmer, but that wind was howling. Oh, it was miserable out there yesterday. That got so cold. That wind chill factor is massive.
Yep.
And if anybody's wondering, it's 30 below outside. So 30 below Celsius and 30 below Fahrenheit aren't that far apart. Actually, I think it's 40 below. 40 below is 40 below. That's the same number on both scales.
Bleeping cold.
It's bleeping cold. And that's one thing, speaking of bleeping, you know, we're trying to keep this a family-friendly podcast. So if there is going to be a bad word get in here, we're going to bleep it out for you. So you don't got to worry if you're listening to this in the car with your kids about something getting past you, or past us, because we want to keep this so people and their family and their kids and grandma and grandpa can both sit down. And everybody, if they're listening to it, don't have to worry about something wrong coming out. And if it is, hopefully Tyler can hit the old bleep button on it, because
We do have one guest in mind, and we might do a warning at the beginning of that video, because just who the guest is, swearing is part of their vocabulary, and it might not be a very good podcast. But for this one, we're gonna keep the swears out.
yeah. Yeah, if there is going to be an episode with swears, we're going to let you know at the beginning. So, Travis, how's the cell service down at your farm?
Well, it's not bad. Actually, the farm is honestly it's probably 3/4 of a mile from the cell phone tower. Yep. So I mean, it's not bad there. But I mean, if you end up standing right underneath the tower, you got nothing.
Really? It doesn't go
Yeah.
down?
Nope. No, because it's actually sitting on a quarter of land that we rent, and it's literally right behind the yard. And I can tell if I'm like I listen to podcasts all day long in the tractor, in the combine, you name it. And if I'm listening to a podcast and I'm within, oh, I guess I'd say 1,000 feet, 800 to 1,000 feet from the tower, I'll lose it.
Oh, it's just how the antennas are aimed to go outwards, not
Yeah,
downwards.
yeah, yeah. Like it doesn't have all the antennas coming off. It's got those oh, I call them drums. You look like snare drums hanging off the
Oh,
sides.
yeah, yeah. I think we got a new one here south of Glentworth. They just put up now 4 years ago, which has just been an absolute game changer for cell phone service. You know, before you used to be able to go to the bar in town, and cell phones never worked in the bar, so it was always a great excuse why the wife couldn't get a hold of you. Well, I was in the bar, and there's no cell phone service in there. Now you can't get away with that because the bar's got perfect service, so that excuse is gone. But I find with my land, I'm a very scattered farm. Like we got land every direction of Glentworth, but we go south of Glentworth. I think it's 16 miles south we go, and you actually cross the North American Divide, like we call it the bench. So the water on the north side flows up the Old Wives Basin and off the Hudson Thunder Bay or whatever, and the water on the south side goes down into the States, into Fort Peck, and then into the Missouri. So once you cross that ridge of hills, actually you're taller than the cell phone tower to begin with, and you're in and out of service, and then you'll go out of service and then you'll come off the American towers and you constantly get into the welcome to the States, welcome to Niemont, data roaming charges will apply. And it's like, yep, I'm south of the bench. So, and nobody will ever put a cell phone tower down there because nobody wants to put their signal into another country.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you that a while back as far as that goes. Like when you do get those notifications on your phone that you're picking up towers from the US, like is it do you see that on your phone bills too or no?
I run a plan where I'm covered, a North America plan, because
Okay.
I wouldn't even want to know what it would be for all them charges I get. And then when a guy can go down to the States, I don't got to worry about turning off cellular data. I just use my phone normally.
Hmm.
Tyler, how's your service out there?
Terrible. Terrible. I have two cell phone towers within, by the way the crow flies, both of them are within 10 miles of me. It is absolutely terrible. Communicating on our farm used to be a huge problem. And then in about 2007, we got into two-way radios, VHF radios. And we put them in everything. My house has one, the workshop has one, Dad's house has one, even my uncle's house has one. And getting onto the cell phone and two-way radios, my uncle flat out refuses to carry a cell phone. He says, I can't get any service on it. What's the point in even carrying it?
Well, yeah, if you can't, there's no service, and then you have to go back to the old days of the party lines and general rings.
Yeah.
Do you want to, what is a general ring, Dallas? I
Oh,
don't
hey,
think a lot of people will know what that is.
that's something. Well, my dad is 49 model, so he's turning 76 here right away. So back way before 911 and all that stuff, it was a party line, but basically the whole RM was basically, had phones. So everybody had their own rings. If it was a party line, you'd be like one short, two long would be your rings. But a general ring was like just like a 5 second long ring, and that meant everybody in the RM or the municipality, whichever way it was, pick up the phone. There's something important, and it usually was involved a fire. It'd be a grass fire, it'd be a structure fire. So it called everybody. So if it was 1 4 second or 5 second long ring, that was a general ring. That means pick up the phone. There's a message for everybody. And I don't know if it was one lady or whatever at the operator station just repeating the same message until the word got out, but that's how they let people know that there was a fire or an emergency, was the general ring. But even when we moved to the farm in '83, we were on a party line. So we were, the old lady that lived down from us, she didn't use the phone very much, but I'm sure she listened lots to, because you could just pick up the phone and you could listen. But if you didn't raise the little knob, and the little knob on your phone turned on your mic, so I'm sure she listened to lots of conversations, but she would rarely ever get a phone call. But I was pretty young. I was only 7 when we moved to the farm. So we actually had a party line out here in the country.
It's amazing how far we've actually come with cell phones. And on this farm, we still have 3 landlines on the farm just because of how unreliable cell phone service is. So with the two-way radios and everything, and them scattered all over the yard, if somebody wants to get a hold of my uncle, they'll phone the house. Leonard's wife, Nancy, is normally home, and all of a sudden you'll hear Nancy come over to the radio. Leonard, come to the house. You have a phone call.
So even in this modern times, you still go back to the old school way of Leonard, come to the house. You had a call to make. But actually, speaking of that and some old school ways in history, when we did the first episode, that we still are new to this and we're green to this, we ended up getting a beep and some funny sounds coming in. And Tyler, you got cut off when you were talking about how your dad or your grandfather started your farm. And I think that's pretty critical to explain to the viewers and the listeners out there of how you got to where you were. And then maybe Travis, maybe you can even chase that up too with how you got started with farming and with your dad and your grandpa and stuff.
So how my family farm got started is my grandpa, he was a barn painter. He grew up through the 30s and whatnot when times were tough. He kind of started life down in that manor country, and he became a barn painter because he enjoyed painting, and it was kind of probably really the only job he could do because he had only a grade 7 education, if I remember right.
So I'm going to go with a few thousand gallons of red paint in his day, because every barn is red.
Every barn was red. He even painted grain elevators. He talked about when he was still alive how they would have a pulley that would hang over the edge of the grain elevator, and they'd tie a rope to the bumper of a car, and he'd sit on a 2x4 and they'd pull him up.
Oh
But
my.
back in those times, it was all the lead paint. So he came to this farm where we are now. It used to be owned by the Dukes, and he went to go paint the barn. Well, he ended up getting sick with lead poisoning. So they took him in, put him in their attic, and for 2 months he was sick in bed. All he could drink was milk. Well, this old boy and old girl, they never had any children of their own, had no family. They immigrated here, had no family. Well, my grandpa felt obligated to repay his debt for being looked after, so he stuck around to be a hired hand until his debt was repaid, and he ended up falling in love with farming. And the old boy asked him, like, do you want a job? Do you want to stick around? And my grandpa did. He built a house, worked for the old boy, ended up buying some of his own land, getting some of his own cattle, and looking after them. Well, as the old boy got older and near retirement age, the old boy said to him, well, I'm not going to be here forever. Neither is my wife. If you look after us when we're old, the farm is yours. So the old boy, he eventually died. He took care. My dad and uncle, they called her Grandma Duke. She was basically the grandma they never had. So when she got to the age where she needed to be a home, Grandpa put her up in a home, looked after all that. Then once she went, the home quarter was titled over to him, and here we are now. I'm the third generation. Hopefully one day to have the farm title in my name.
That might be the first story in the history of the world that lead paint was actually good for something.
You know what? I've never thought of it that way.
That's an amazing story. Like how, because he wasn't a homesteader or nothing like that, but just amazing.
No, he did kind of come from a farming background. We do have relatives that farm down in Manor area, and they still do, but I don't know.
That
He fell in love with farming, I guess, and here we are, 3 generations deep.
2 months sick in bed and could only drink milk.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know nothing about lead or lead paint, but
Could
that's
you imagine if that happened to us now?
oh.
I'm sure they got
Yeah, it
some
would be
medicine
good.
for it now, or they just might as well just call the funeral home now. I don't know. We're not as tough as they used to be anymore. We've
Well,
all gotten pretty soft.
well, yeah, because
That's a fact.
well, exactly. Now we'd be sitting there. Oh, I'm sick in bed for 2 months. Cell phone, iPad, Netflix, Wi-Fi. You know.
He would have stared at the ceiling and counted the flies.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
And waited for the day that the newspaper would show up every couple of weeks and read that thing corner to corner in every article in the middle. I have to admit, them old boys were tough. They come out south of the city there, they get their home quarter, and all they have is the oxen and the wagon. I remember hearing stories that my great grandfather, I think they overturned the wagon in I think most of the first winter they lived in an overturned wagon. Like that's tough as nails. That you
Wow.
ain't doing that now.
I couldn't imagine that. Like, I was laying on my side in that water bowl, fixing that water bowl today, and I was maybe only out there for 15 minutes, and I was frozen.
Yep.
Like,
And
could
they
you
and they
imagine living under an uninsulated wagon with likely they weren't prepared for winter or had anywhere near the clothing we do now?
no. They might have some warm clothes back there. You get some of that proper buffalo hide or whatever. Maybe that was common at the turn of the century, but big, heavy, cumbersome. But there's no insulated back then.
Do you care to share your story, Travis? That's about all I got for mine right now that I can remember off the top of my head.
yeah, no problem. Well, my great grandfather, he came here from Germany back in the early 1900s. Little backstory on him. He started farming here. He actually died in 1995 at the age of 105.
Oh
So he
wow.
lived a full life. He had 3 hip replacements, 4 quadruple bypasses. There was no quitting that old man. But he came here from Germany. Him and my great grandmother had 5 kids, a girl and 4 boys. My uh, great uncles, I guess, and one was my grandfather. They farmed together for oh a long time. And from what I remember, how the story went, my grandfather had a falling out with his brothers, And Grandpa thought, you know what, I'm going to go branch out on my own. Same area, like not far from the house he grew up in, like literally like a quarter mile down the road. And we live in a little village here, just south of Swift Current. And Grandpa started his own thing. He built a really nice yard. He built a small corral. He raised a few head of cattle for a number of years. Um, my dad came into the picture evidently and helped him with that. And they got out of the cattle business. I think it was, I want to say 81 or 82. I know it wasn't long before I came around because of the I think it was the mad cow or the BSE deal that I'm not that great with with how cattle were done back then and what the problems were because I never really had to deal with it. But he just kind of got out of it, went straight to just grain farming with my dad. My dad did that for a while, and I think it was in his mid 20s. Dad decided he was going to go work for a sawmill for a while out in British Columbia. So he did that and came back. He met my mom, who only lived in the town that's 3 miles away, and they popped out a couple kids, me being one of them. Uh, Dad bought the yard that he's on now from the people that he was actually renting from and who we still rent land from. He got a pretty good deal off of that. Um, and him and my grandpa farmed for a long time, at least until 2016 when my grandpa passed away. I started doing like helping on the farm when I was 11 years old. Like I was driving our 4630 and 35-foot cultivator when I was 11 years old. First job on the farm I ever had, and I absolutely loved it. And but the only thing I didn't love is when I was misbehaving and my dad or my grandpa would send me out to shovel out a flat bottom bin. I tell you that was punishment. If it wasn't that, it was sweeping out the Quonset, and everybody knows how dusty and dirty sweeping out a Quonset would be. So uh, anyway, did that. Went to school every day after school, like any other farm kid. You know, as soon as you're done school, you put your backpack away. You're hopping onto the field. You're helping out with the harvest. Um, I did that for a long time. Then I came to a point in my life too here. I guess it was probably 10 years ago where I got offered a trucking job with a buddy of mine that was, you know, close to Saskatoon. And I thought, you know what, I needed a break from uh, from farming and wanted to see what else was out there. You know, just kind of explore my options a bit, I guess. Um, but what really kind of put the put the stamp on it was when my grandfather did pass away in 2016. It was just my dad. That was it. I was like, you know what? This is something I need to do. I
Yeah.
need to carry on with a family farm.
Time to go home.
Yep, it was time to go home. It was time to hang up the keys. I still do that every now and then in the winter months. You know, hop in a truck for a couple buddies of mine. Like in the winter times for several last several years, my buddy has contracts doing snow removal in Swift Current. You know, just doing winter stuff. You know, I call it something just to kind of keep the boredom away during the winter time because on our farm, unless we're hauling grain into town and we're selling it, there's not much going on. Like, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, we don't have a nice big heated shop like most people have. So it's like we can't really pull anything in to work on it in the winter time, which is unfortunate. But it's hopefully going to happen here in the next little while. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, I'm primarily on the farm. Me and Dad work together. My sister, it was a full on family operation. My sister ended up having a few kids here starting, well, 4 years ago. So she's not really, she's more of a mom now. She doesn't really do much on the farm anymore. Uh, as far as keeping the operation going, it's me and Dad. He runs the sprayer in the springtime. I run the drill in the summertime. Mom, I think we were talking about this the other night there, Dallas. Like, talk about mothers and whatnot and farm wives. You know, my mom she is the top gopher. Like she's like getting up there in H2, but I mean, she's like, you need me, I'm there. Like snap of a finger.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's awesome.
And that's the big key is family farms. You need to have family on them. But we don't know what's going to happen in the future that way. But at least, Travis, when you were 11 years old and running a tractor, you would have got away with it because anybody driving by would have thought there was a teenage boy in there. Because were you 6 feet tall at 11? If
No,
anybody doesn't know, Travis has a bit of height to him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A very difficult 6'9". Yeah,
Bad.
small places don't agree with me. And unplugging a combine from the walker area to the beater section of the combine, that's not a safe place to be for me because I've gotten stuck there before.
I don't think it's a
Just,
safe place or a nice place for anybody to be, no matter the size of your body.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got a bit of a story about that if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead.
My it was
fire
two
away.
years. It was 2 years before my grandpa passed away, and we were combining yellow peas, and I don't know what happened with these peas that year, but the combine would not it would not like it. If it went 2 mile an hour, you're guaranteed to plug the combine with a 30 foot uh, honeybee header. It
Yep.
would plug. I don't know if it was some sort of stem rot or what, but I mean these stalks you couldn't. The plant was dry, but you bend these stalks, and it was almost like bending a stalk of canola. Like when you first cut it, it's that rubbery
Mm-hmm.
texture to it.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
that
Yep.
that's what these peas were. And Grandpa plugged his combine, and I was just I can't remember what I was doing. I was putting out some other dumpster fires on the yard, and I get a call from Grandpa. It's like I plugged my combine. Like, oh no. And like we were running a 9600 and a 9610, and Grandpa was running the 9600. And I thought, okay, well, peas. There's a shear pin for the low speed on that cylinder, so the shear pin would have broke to eliminate it getting slammed in there too bad. So I crawl underneath the feeder house, open up the access panels, and yeah, it's plug full right in the cylinder. So I'm pulling on this stuff for probably a good 45 minutes, and finally I was able to, you know, see that it was free and clear. So I put a new shear pin in, Grandpa fires it up, shear pin breaks again. What the heck? Well, there's something else going on. So I'm looking, I pull the access panel on top of the feeder house right underneath the cab, and I could see right through the cylinder that the beater had a huge wad stuck in there. I'm like, oh no. And I might have long arms, but my arms aren't long enough to reach all the way back there. So the only other option was to climb up the engine compartment. And anybody that knows these combines, there's an access door in the engine compartment to get down to the walkers. And I'm looking in there and shine a flashlight down to the back of the beater, and yep, there's a big slug right in it. I was like, great. I was like, Grandpa, this is going to probably take a while. So, I mean, if you got something else to do, go for it. So, yeah, well, I'll go home for lunch and maybe catch a nap. Just call me when you're done. It's like, all right.
I guess when he's your grandfather and he's the boss, he's like, you go unplug that combine, son. I'm gonna go for a dinner and a nap, and you let me know when that thing's ready to go.
Yeah. So he jumps in his old Chevy 3/4 ton, heads home, only about a mile away. And I shimmy my way in there, and I can still feel to this day that sharp steel on my knees. I should have had knee pads on at that point. And I'm going all the way down, and I'm pretty much laying on my belly. And those sharp risers and the sharp screens inside those walkers, not comfortable.
No.
I highly don't
Not
recommend
user
doing
friendly
this.
for the flesh.
No.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. It looks like you just came out of a cheese grater when you come out. But anyway, I'm in there flat on my stomach, and I'm just pulling. I don't have much leverage at all, and I'm just pulling like little handful chunks out at a time, and it seems like I'm getting nowhere. And finally, before I finished, I was like, "Hey, I need some air," because it was dusty in there. Stupid me, didn't have a mask on, and I was like, "Okay, try to shimmy myself backwards out of this compartment." Well, I get back about a foot, and then also my jeans hook on something.
You get stuck?
I got stuck.
Oh.
I got stuck, and I'm wiggling, like trying to wiggle every which way I can to, get. I think it was the bottom cuff of my jeans that I had a rip in my jeans. That's what it was. I had a worn rip in the bottom part of my jeans, and it caught the riser on the side of the straw walker. And I, for the life of me, could not wiggle my foot high enough or side to side enough to get it out, and I definitely couldn't reach back with my hand to pull it away. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is where I'm going to die. So finally, I'm like, I don't have my cell phone with me. I left it in the truck because I didn't want to wreck it into where I was. It's like, oh, this couldn't get any worse. So I'm sitting there. It's like, well, there's nothing more to do than keep pulling this stuff out of the beater. So I finally get it out, and my grandpa hadn't showed up yet because, of course, he was waiting for me to call him to say that I was done. I don't know how much time went by, but all of a sudden I hear the truck rolling into the field. And he's like, "You still in there?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm still in here, but I've been done for probably, I'm guessing, a half an hour, but I can't get out." It's like, "Well, why did you call me? I don't have my cell phone with me." So poor guy, he had to reach in the top of the compartment to get where my leg was caught, pull it out. It was the stupidest way it was hooked on there. He just yanked my leg and ripped. He ruined a pair of jeans anyway. Just put a nice slit from my ankle up to halfway up my calf. And finally got out of there, and I was so sore. I was like, I don't ever want to do that again, Grandpa. It's like, well, if I call you, or if I get plugged up again, you're going to be the first one I call. I'm like, so my day's not over yet, is it? He's, oh, probably not. I'm like, great. That was the most traumatic experience on the farm I've ever had.
I would. I'm usually pretty calm, but I would almost have a little bit of panic going through my brain. Like, what if they come in here and start the combine or anything like that would be going through my head. Like,
Well,
I mean, take a
luckily,
deep breath and start getting ready to yell.
well, yeah, well, luckily, well, you've run a 9600 combine before, Dallas. You know how you get into the engine compartment, you pull the
Yep,
side panel ladder
yep,
down. I
yep.
mean, somebody would have seen that either from the mirror of the cab or
Oh yeah, yeah.
driving up to it, luckily. But yeah, if somebody didn't know what they were doing and wasn't paying attention, I mean, I would have, probably the movement of the walkers would have freed me up, but I think I'd be a little worse for wear when I got out of there.
Oh yeah, when I 96 when I went custom car harvesting, we went to Texas and all the way back up to Melville, and we had 8 9600s back in '96 that we ran in the States and in Canada here. So, and then after that, then I come back and farm full time with Dad then, and then we bought our first 9600s. We had two 9600s and then 9610 before we upgraded to the claws. And the combine length and history around this farm is video by itself, or a podcast by itself.
Stay tuned for episode 3.
Episode 3.
Yeah,
So
but
just going back to when you remember being 11 years old, Travis, and driving a tractor. Do you remember what the first tractor was that you ever drove by yourself alone?
that was the John Deere 4630.
And that was cultivating?
That was when we were still pre-working in front of the drill.
Yeah.
We had our dad had a 52-foot 3-section international hoe drill.
See, me, the first one I drove was a Case 1370 with a 39-foot Morris cultivator. And it would have been doing summer fallow. And ironically, my mom was the one that showed me how to summer fall. I forget Dad was doing something, and Mom was supposed to be doing it. And I don't think she wanted to do it, so she showed me how to do it, and that's how I learned how to run. That's the first one I ran: 1370, 39-foot 3-plex Morris cultivator doing summer fallow. And then I fell in love since. This running machinery has just always been a passion of mine. But I would have been 12, at the latest 13 when I started doing that. And Tyler, what was your first tractor?
The first one I can remember running on my own was a Case Steiger 9240 with an 850 bushel Degelman grain cart behind it.
Oh,
Nice.
Just we were short bodies, and it was an easy tractor to drive. It had the power shift in it. And the 9240s, they're kind of a unique tractor on their own. They don't pivot in the middle like your standard four-wheel drive tractor. They have the crab steering.
Yeah, like the 2670 was.
Yeah, and I think the 9270s, I could be wrong on that, were the same way. They had the crab steering.
9260.
9260,
I would think.
okay.
Yeah,
that's right. 9260s were that way. And it was kind of unique. I can remember back when we did do a little bit of straight cutting, the TX68s, they were kind of like how the Gleaner augers are on them today still. what do they call that? The anteater auger or something?
Something
Oh,
like that, yeah.
yeah, they come way off
So,
the bottom
anyways,
there.
we had a 30-foot straight cut header on. Well, it wasn't quite enough length to get the grain cart in to unload on the go. So you'd kick the crab steering, and you'd walk that rear dual in behind the header of the combine to get the grain cart in over. And here I am at 11, 12 years old doing this, trying not to soil myself, because if I make one wrong move, I'm going to run this header over. And Dad, my uncle, and my grandpa was still alive and farming at that time, are going to have some choice words with me.
If
Oh
you
yeah.
drive over a header, oh yeah, yep.
Thankfully, I never did it, but it was kind of unique experience.
They were such a unique. We had a Case 2670, which is the same steering, just a more obviously a junkier tractor and terrible case motor. But if you pulled that lever and you pulled the lever down on the back crab steer and then you turn the steering the other way, you could go down the field making 8 individual tire tracks behind the tractor. Like it was just, it's like a Land Rover all by itself.
Yeah, they were quite something. To this day, that was still one of my favorite tractors to ever run. I wish we never got rid of it, but
Well, was that the yellow and or sorry, the red and black paint scheme on them, or was it the white?
On mine was the white and black, but the Case 9240 Travis was talking about, it would be the exact same as my 9280 paint scheme. That'd be red and silver wheels. That'd
yeah,
be
I
my
believe
guess.
that tractor was a 1991, so it would have been red with the silver wheels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And
cousin had a couple of those tractors too, and I'm not a big case guy by any means, but I mean those tractors were pretty cool.
oh yeah, yeah. That would be a very unique one because I mean it was a unique design, and that's right when they bought Stagger out in '88. Case bought Stagger, and so they just started slapping red paint on green tractors. And they're like, what are we going to do with these diffs? Oh, let's just make a solid frame one and slap our old diffs in, and half Stagger parts, half old Case parts. But I think I was at the Egg in Motion there. I think the new Claws tractors, some of those big 4-wheel drives, are also a crab steer, 4-wheel
They
steer
are.
tractor.
Yeah, I've
They are.
seen them.
They
Yeah, they are.
yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how much better it works, because on that 9240, it wasn't a mechanical steer. Like the crab steer was electric.
Oh, okay. Ours is a hydraulic.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I was at the crop production show in Saskatoon here for the last day last week, and they had one of their tractors there. And I talked to the guy about it, and yeah, it's all pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. Well, Claws is a world leader in technology too when it comes to the farm machinery. Obviously with their combines, and I would think their tractors will be really decent too. That dealership was a scary part. The price is the next scary part.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's literally in my area, there's no dealer network for them. Like I'd either be Brandon. Is there a Claus dealer in Regina?
I think there is.
Or my
Maybe.
closest
We
one would
we we
either
got
be
one in.
Winnipeg or
Yep.
Swift Current, I'd have to believe, because there's a
Yeah,
Claus
we got
dealer.
one here.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I,
So
I,
that.
I don't know. And then, yes, as you're saying, the price would be just scary on them.
Yeah. Well, for
And a
what is
lot of
it?
that
The
stuff that we have on this new farm equipment, a lot of that stuff we don't need.
no,
No.
no. But
Like,
that's what scares me about all this huge equipment and the huge price tags. I mean, not not a lot of small farmers with less than 20,000 acres are going to be able to afford this machine or utilize it.
well, you look at some of these 100-foot air drills. Not a lot of guys need a 100-foot air drill, and the guy that needs a 100-foot air drill, he's normally in the position where he can afford to buy a new one. He doesn't want to
Yeah.
buy somebody's clapped out
Well,
used one, right?
exactly. Last thing I want to buy is a 4-year-old, 50,000-foot, 100-foot air drill, and expect it to perform like a new drill because it's not new. But
No.
they're going to want a fortune for it. So somewhere along the way, either the first owner is going to get effed on it, or it just, I don't know what that the new old iron's going to be worth. Like it's going to hold its value or just drop off because a lot of people are going to want that stuff because the time it gets around, well, the new stuff's going to be so much better. The new tank's going to be better. So the
Hmm.
massive depreciation on some of this farm machinery is going to be massive.
The one
Massive,
that I'm
massive.
really curious about is these X9 John Deere combines that are out. They've pumped a pile of them out, and a lot of guys have bought those combines to drop a machine, maybe two. Well, just because you've dropped a machine and that combine's capable of it, you're going to push it harder because it's got the horsepower to do it. So, are those X9s going to be good combines to buy used, or are they going to be ones that have been ran through the ringer and put away wet?
Yeah,
Well, you'd
50
be
foot.
surprised how many people are actually they buy these, but they don't keep them very long. They sell them. I've seen a lot on Facebook. A lot of guys are selling the X9s that they only put a year into them.
Well, they're taking a bath on your depreciation then. I mean, you're going to pay
Yeah.
$1 million and get 600 on trade, and combine 1 year and lose 400 grand.
That takes a
Yikes.
lot of acres to make that 400,000.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of guys have more than one of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But that's the thing though. They're not put on the market for guys like, well, I guess I might as well say guys like me that only farm 6,500 acres. They're for the guys that are running 6 or 8 combines every year. They're like you just said, they're looking to down, um, I guess downgrade on their equipment line from 8 to like 5.
Yeah. I mean, in my part of the world, in that terrain, you're not going to bend your. I mean, I run FD2 MacDons, and maybe I could go to 45 foots, but I doubt I could make a 50 foot follow my terrain and do a good job doing it. So if I can't keep that combine full, then I have way too much combine, and if my header can't cut the ground correctly, then I have way too much header. So the idea of a class 10 or 11 combine out here for me is just absolutely laughable and not going to happen. I run class 9 combines, which majority of the time, especially the last few years, are overkill. It's just when you go through the dip, then I like having that big power. Finally find some crop and the combine runs up to 95, 100 engine load. But then the rest of the time, I'm cruising on the field at 50% engine load, knowing that I'm not maxing my combine out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you got a lot of hills in your area there, Tyler?
It is very sporadic where I am. Where our farm is, it's fairly rolly, and if you just go about a mile south of where my yard is, it flattens out, and I'm right near the Pipestone Valley.
Okay.
So from this Pipestone Valley, it's fairly rolly. It doesn't seem like it on the highway, but you get a few miles off the highway, it gets decently rolly. I got neighbors that they're running them big 50-foot uh, straight cut headers on their X9 John Deeres, and they're having no issues. So header width wouldn't really be a problem here for us, but we kind of got a mixture of everything here.
Okay. Yeah, I guess MacDon, they just came out here a little while ago with a 60 foot header, I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
61, I think.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But then, 61 foot header, class 11 combine. I mean, but you can only throw a piece of chaff so far.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're never. I don't. It'd be in any sort of wind. You're definitely not going to be spreading into any sort of wind, not unless they design some whole new kind of. So I really think the combines are probably coming to the end of the massive development.
Yeah.
And a lot of the combines, the New Hollands, the Cases, the John Deeres, like your 780s, your CR 9.9s, your 9250 Cases, they're good combines, real good combines. And maybe the new ones can come down in price when they don't keep having to reinvent the wheel and keep trying to redesign the combine to one up the neighbors of competition. Because I'd be happy if, my CR 9090s, they've ran that same concave in them combines, and they still have them now. For my combines are 13s, and my concaves can come out of my combine, and they can go right into a brand new combine. So
Your sieves are
hope
much the same too.
sieves are much the same. So let's hope if they're not constantly doing a lot of R&D on the technology, maybe they can make these things cheaper. Because tried and true designs like your big Stagger 4-wheel drives, your big tractors, the tried and true designs, they're going to last. They're going to work, and they work. or I'd be afraid to go to an X9 combine because it doesn't have the track record that your big case single rotors have, that your my CR 9090s or Travis's Deers. Like, you know, the
Yep.
Walker Deer has been around since, well, forever. I mean, but it's very similar from the 8820 to the 9600, 9610, 9650s, up to the, what is it, T something something, Travis?
The T
Is
series for John Deere.
Yeah, isn't that a
Yeah,
Walker combine?
yeah, T670. We have one of those.
Oh, okay, but it's still the
Yeah.
same as, same bones as your 9600, right?
Pretty much. I mean, there's some differences. Like it's got one extra beater drum
Oh, okay.
in behind all of it. Um, if you plug that up, trust me, it's a bear to get to. You got to do it all from the side and get a stick, and yeah, you can spend all day unplugging that thing. But me and Dad were actually talking about this summer. It's like, you know what? The ideal combine for us, like we retired our 9600 when my grandpa bought that combine brand new in 95, and 3 years ago now. Uh, we decided to retire it. We already put a bunch of money into it. Um, the the Walker area was getting well worn. The tin was wearing through, and the price to even get used parts put in this stuff it wasn't even worth it to us. But we still had the 9610, so that's what I'm running now. And Dad and I got talking. All these monitors, bells and whistles, adjusting your sieves from the cab. I mean, that's all fine and dandy. But why not, kind of rebirth a 9600 series combine like they did in the 90s and just put this extra electronics into it? That would be in my mind, that would be the best combine ever for a deer, for guys that are that like running conventional combines.
Yeah, well, the
You want to
technology's
make
there.
the
They don't.
shift to a New Holland, that's basically what the CX series New Hollands are.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
And they come with a big
yeah,
wrench to unplug it when you plug it.
they do. Yep.
And years ago, we ran a Cat Lexion, so claws basically, 460 Walker combine, and it was, but similar to the 9600s, but it had about, I'd say, at least 1/3 more capacity yet than the 9600 had. Like, it's just that much bigger yet.
Yeah.
But the problem we got out of it was that back when Kramer was the Lexion / Claws dealer, and then they parted ways with Agco and completely dropped out of the machinery line, and then we're stuck with basically this no dealership. Canada Harvest hadn't started yet, so we're stuck with basically this no dealership, no work combine. So
Yeah.
it actually legitimately went from our farm when we bought it brand new. We only ran it, I think we're only a little over 3,000 hours. And when we were done with it, it needed a rebuild. The augers were wore out, like the clean grain augers were wore out, like the elevators were wore out. They had patches on them. So, a not that old combine that could have been rebuilt, the most economic decision is we sold the combine world and we scrapped it. And
Hmm.
so, that's not very viable.
No.
So that's
No.
why we stick with pretty brand name equipment around our place.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we still have that 9600 sitting in our yard or on the side of our yard right now, because 95% of the parts that are on that 9600 will fit that 9610. So we're actually saving money on parts from the dealership to keep the machine that we got running.
Well, they don't want you to do that. They
No, they
want you to
don't.
buy. They want you for the first 10 years to buy new parts, and then they're going to make that part made of unobtainium, and you're not going to be able to get it. And so now you're just going to scrap that combine, ship it to Combine World, and they want you to buy a new one. They don't want you
Yeah.
to run that old stuff. No, no, no. That's
No.
Travis. You're doing it all wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like we're not big farmers as far as today's age of having the amount of acres go. Like I said, we're 6,000 to 6,500 acres at this point, and everybody around us is more than that. But I mean, we're not every farmer is rich as much as people like to think that. They see everybody with this brand new equipment. Oh, they're rich. They got money coming out of their, what. I mean,
That's
some people
one
just
thing
don't
that
get it.
really ticks me off is when people find out, oh, you're a farmer. Oh, you're rich.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Not
No,
even close.
no.
No.
I've had so many arguments with people online about this. Is like, they bought that new equipment mostly because they had to, because you got to keep up the integrity of your equipment line. I don't care who you are.
Hmm.
Yep.
But and somebody's got to make those payments. Like those payments aren't cheap. Like one tractor could pretty much buy a good house three times over.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
So we might be
We
land and machinery rich, but we're definitely cash poor. And
Yeah.
the only
absolutely.
time you're ever going to see that money is when you get out of it. And that
Hmm.
means you've now ended your multiple generation farm is now done.
And it's
Yeah.
gone
And
forever. It's
and
gone.
that money I think is better off to be shipped down the road to the barn painter can take over the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to see. It's hard to see, these farms that were around for decades. All of a sudden, you see their names on the Ritchie Brothers auction list. It's either because they can't afford to, or their kids, the four kids they might have, don't want to keep it going. It's hard to see that. People just don't want to really get into farming as much as they used to, I guess. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
it's.
and I've noticed ourselves as we've grown over the years, like you'll buy a half section of land and off in the corner there was an old yard. Well, there's no power, the bins are gone, the house is fallen over or just done. And it's heartbreaking, but it has to be done at the same time. Like, there was history there. People were raised there, children were birthed there, stuff like
Hmm.
that. But at the same time, the land is so valuable where the yard site is sitting. It breaks my heart, but we keep having to do it. You tear it all up and you knock the trees down and you push the old bin in the corner and you burn it and you clean it and you pick the scrap iron. And within about 3 or 4 years, we've 100% erased that farm from the history of the land. I mean,
Yep.
you'll walk out there, you'll always be able to walk out to them old yards, and you're going to find a broken plate or a harrow tooth or some piece of machinery, something or other. But the drive by at 100 mile an hour or 100 kilometers an hour or whatever, it's gone.
Yep.
And it's sad in a way that we've erased. I've done it myself lots of times. Dad and I have made farms disappear. And it's sad to do, but at the same time, when you're paying thousands of dollars an acre for this land and you're losing that productivity, you're making that payments. It's most of the time it's in an inconvenient place. You're farming around it. Big machinery don't fit in the corners. But that old yard was gone. We could stroke right through there,
Yeah.
and just yeah. So it's hard to do, but it has to be done. But there's a lot of history gone.
It's an
That's right.
unnecessary evil.
It
Yeah, and
is.
that's
Yeah.
necessary. That's exactly right. That's necessary evil. Because even this old yard, like when Dad bought this farm in '83, when we moved to this yard, Dad set up the house and stuff. There's supposed to be good water here, which I've proved there isn't. There was one fallen over barn and one dead tree in this yard in an old well. And then dug a new well, built the house, built this, and everything went into it. Well, a couple of years ago, we were trenching a power line, aeration in some bins, and we always knew the old house was back in that area of the yard. Or, I was only 7 when we moved here. And Dad's like, you got to come see this. He figured when he was trenching, he got into the cellar of the old house, and there's, I don't know, we only got a few of them, but we picked up dozens of jars, like quart sealer jars. He said, like they were almost like stacked in here, and as the house fell in on itself, and Dad said, I cleaned up the little bit was left of the house, but it was all buried over, and all we found was all these jars and bottles and everything. And he dug it all by hand. Like he didn't run a trench with it or dug it all by hand, carefully removed it. But he said on both sides of this trench, and it's underneath an aeration bin on the one side, a big hopper bottom, he said, it's just full of bottles in here. Like there's all sorts of, right here under this bin is where the old house was. So it's gone, but it's also still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Those antiques, they keep after some time, they resurface.
Well, here's another little story. Years ago, I was working on an air drill, and I climbed underneath the air drill. I think I hammered off something or fixed something. And be gosh darn, if I didn't lose my hammer somehow in the stubble there. And we farmed that land. We rented it for a few years there, and you know, so I underneath there, climbing around, didn't find my hammer. Never did. I did find the hammer years later. I didn't find it that time. But while I'm climbing around underneath here, I found a tomahawk, and I had to laugh to myself. I lost a hammer, but I found some old, some native. I found his lost hammer somewhere along the way, because the tomahawk is a round rock, except the ring grooved into it so we could hold on to a branch or a stick was tied to it. And then years later, I was always looking for that hammer, and gosh darn, if I didn't get out there the one time, every time I'd combine in that spot or seed in that spot, I'd get out and use the can and take a look, and I did find it. But I found my lost hammer. But meanwhile, I found somebody else's lost hammer along the way.
Yeah. I got in our barn there. I got a collection of, well, like, I don't know if you want to call it collection, but I got about 6 old horse bits from the same half section that we rent right now. I found 6 horse bits, and I was like, it makes sense because on one 40-acre chunk of that half section, there's an old horse wagon sitting there, and it's
Oh, yeah.
got a bunch of stuff around it, and old iron, and it's always been around that wagon. It's where I'm always knocking stuff off the drill shanks or whatever, and it's like for the longest time I didn't know what's the history of this. I finally asked Dad. I was like, why am I always finding these old horse harness gadgets? And he's like, well, back in what was it, the 40s or whatever, people that farmed that land, they did it all with a horse and a one bottom plow, and that's how they farmed it back then. I was like, well, that's I love stories like that. I love knowing the history of the land I'm farming. We got one half section that my grandpa owned, and I actually dropped the back dual of one of our 4-wheel drive tractors into a sinkhole. There was no hole when I was driving up to it, but all of a sudden I felt the back end of the tractor just drop about 3 feet, and I was stuck there. I'm like, what the heck is going on? They said, oh no, Dad says you found the people that used to have a yard here. You found their old well. I'm like, oh well, that's nice.
Yeah. Having the back end of your tractor rod drop into that hole reminds me of a story when I was just out of high school, and I didn't work at the farm initially. I worked for a farmer up at Hazenmore, and he had one of them triple nickel versatiles with them terrible, awful inboard planetaries. Like, they were a garbage tractor. Really, that was probably the worst tractor versatile ever produced, was them triple nickels. And you'd break an axle. And I was doing summer falling with it, and most likely I was probably in a bigger gear than I should have been in or supposed to be in, but I was 18 or 19 and summer falling away. But I remember the old boss said, when you break an axle, you'll know. And it is, yep, when you break an axle, you'll know, because you're going down the field, and when that axle broke, it was just like you dropped in a hole. It just the back end of the tractor went down on the right side, and the tire just up into the fender and the lights, and yep,
It almost
broke
tosses
an
you through the
axle.
side window.
Yep. Whoa, you hit the clutch, and no cell phone, so she used to walk back to the corner of the field, and when you break the axle, but the boss said at that time that tractor was fairly decent, not a lot of hours on it, and he found a 145 that had a blown up motor, but the 145 had real big outboard planetaries, and that was that winter's project in his shop there at Hazenmore. We pulled the axles out of the 145 and put the triple nickel in, and took all the axles out of the triple nickel and moved all the tires and rims over and put the axles and built the spacers and had a machine shop remake the drive shaft. So I learned a lot of fabricating that winter just as a young 19-year-old whippersnapper there, but changing the axles. So we changed the axles on Mickey's tractor there from the triple nickel inboard planetaries to 145 external planetaries. So it can be done. The only thing when we were done is there's no more PTO, because that was a PTO tractor. But the pumpkin of them differentials is so big when we come to put it in place and we're jacking it up, and how come it's not going anymore? Like, we're not in our spacers yet. Excuse me. we were bending the drive shaft that runs the PTO between the drop box at the back and where come on the articulation. So we had to jack it back up, pull out the drive shaft, and then we could put the axle in place. So that
Oh,
tractor should have a PTO, but you would have to raise the, we'd had thought about it. He never used a PTO, no grain carts back then. He would have had to raise the drop box at the back end above the axle, but you know, that was the story, and then that one story led to another story, which led into another story.
that's how it usually goes, right?
Well, I see that we're over an hour here, so time we edit this down. We're going to try to keep all these podcasts at close to an hour to keep it going. Big, huge thanks for Travis Hildabrandt to come on here and be our first guest, but I know you won't be the last one. And Travis, I mean, we'll call on you whenever we need somebody to talk to, because you got a wealth of knowledge and experience that I'm sure our viewers are going to love to hear.
Well, it's definitely been a fun one, guys. Like, thanks a lot for this. It's yeah, I look forward to doing it again.
Yep. And another big thanks is to my partner here, Tyler Janin. Make sure I can say the name right. You're doing a lot of hard work over there, lining all this stuff up, and I gotta give the credit where credit is due for Tyler doing all this work to set this up, so we can all have a little bit of fun being the bunny hug farmers, and this is just to have fun, and talk about where we come from and where we plan on going. So, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you listening.